It always starts with something small. For me, it was the meatloaf. Tuesday night, 6:42 p.m. I was poking at a slightly overcooked slice of meatloaf when my wife, Claire, said it. Not shouted, not sobbed, just said it, like she was giving me a traffic update. "I think I'm going to stay at Margot's this weekend," she said, cutting her broccoli in perfect silence. "The apartment's closer to the art fair." I nodded. Normal enough. Except Margot moved to Seattle 6 months ago. And the art fair? Was in town. I raised an eyebrow. "Margot, huh?" Claire didn't flinch. "She's visiting. Temporarily. Temporarily." The same word she used for that impulsive haircut last year that never grew back right. Now it was being used to airbrush a weekend lie. That's when the hook sank in. I didn't say anything, not because I believed her, but because I didn't want to believe I had a reason not to. But denial, my friends, is a luxury reserved for those with weaker instincts. And mine? Mine were twitching like a dog hearing a distant storm. Later that night, while Claire was brushing her teeth, humming something suspiciously upbeat, I pulled out my laptop. And I did what no man wants to admit he's done. I searched her emails. Nothing at first. Just the usual spam and coupons. Then one thread stood out, tucked neatly in a folder labeled work stuff. It was from a bin. Subject line, "Friday can't come fast enough." That's when my stomach did a backflip. I clicked. There they were. A digital trail of inside jokes, late-night check-ins, and a photo of Claire at what looked like a rooftop bar, wine glass in hand. Smile I hadn't seen in months. She was wearing earrings I bought for our anniversary. The caption below the photo? "She's not mine yet. But soon." I didn't sleep that night. I didn't confront her either. No, that would have been too easy. I was going to wait. Observe. Let her dig her own grave with her perfectly manicured hands. This wasn't paranoia anymore. It was a countdown. And so began the story of how I stopped being a husband and started becoming a ghost in my own life. I wish I could tell you I stormed out, flipped a table, made a scene. But I didn't. That would have made her feel important. No. I played it cool, the kind of cool that makes people nervous. Claire left that Friday with a carry-on, claiming she packed light for studio hopping. I gave her a kiss on the cheek like nothing was wrong. She barely looked up from her phone. As the door clicked shut behind her, I exhaled for the first time all week. I didn't go through her drawers or call her friends. I didn't even check the tracker I'd slipped into her bag. What I did was simpler. I started cleaning. Not the obsessive kind. Just subtractive. My side of the closet? Empty. Bathroom sink? Wiped clean of my razor and cologne. I left her a toothbrush holder with a lonely twin. By noon, the house looked like a man had never lived there. Just Claire and her curated life. I sat at the kitchen table, where 2 mugs used to sit every morning. Only hers remained, lipstick stained from that god-awful coral shade Ben probably said looked artsy. That evening, I followed the tracker. She wasn't at Margot's non-existent apartment. She wasn't even in town. She was at a boutique hotel 25 miles away, one with artisanal soap and couples massages that cost more than our electricity bill. The tracker placed her in room 413. I didn't go in. I just stood across the street, watched the lights flicker in the room, saw her silhouette in the window. 2 shadows moving. One laugh, not hers, then hers, a little louder than usual. That laugh used to be mine. I went home and made dinner for one. Set 2 plates. Ate off mine. Stared at hers. Then, I wrote a letter. Not a dramatic "Dear Claire" monologue. Just 3 lines. "The silence you gave me taught me more than your words ever did. I'll be gone before you remember how this started. And when you do, remember who disappeared first." I left it on her pillow. Folded. No envelope. That night, I didn't sleep in our bed. I slept in my car. Because the only thing colder than the leather seats was the spot she used to reach for me in her sleep. She came home Sunday night. Not the usual soft step Claire. No, this was heels clicking, phone chuckling, perfume-heavy Claire. The version she usually saved for art galas and gallery handshakes. I watched from across the street, engine off, headlights off, like a spectator to my own life unraveling. The front light flicked on. She entered. A pause. Then silence. Longer than it should have been. Because she'd seen it, my absence. Not the dramatic kind. The deliberate kind. The kind that says, "I'm not gone. I just stopped being here for you." She didn't call me. That was the first sign she knew. She didn't ask, "Where are you?" because she was afraid of the answer. Because she already knew what she'd find if she asked. Instead, she texted. 1 line. "Can we talk?" Not, "I'm sorry." Not, "Where are you?" Just the corporate, neutral equivalent of please don't make this a bigger mess. I didn't respond. Not because I didn't have anything to say, but because I wanted her to sit in the silence she'd built for us. A soundproof marriage where I was the wallpaper and Ben was the escape hatch. At 11:08 p.m., she sent another. I think we need to clear the air. I smiled. The air was already clear. For the first time in months, I was breathing just fine. The next morning, I watched our Ring camera footage from the night before. Yeah, I still had access. Claire forgot I handled all the tech stuff. She came in and stood in the hallway, stared at the empty coat rack, then walked to the bedroom. The camera in the living room caught her sitting on the couch in silence, glass of wine in hand, phone in the other. She didn't call Ben. That told me everything. Regret, ladies and gentlemen, isn't loud. It's not made of tears or screams. It's quiet. It sits in corners and looks at doorways hoping someone walks back through them. But I wasn't coming back through. Not until the curtain dropped on her little stage. Claire always thought she was subtle. She thought, I need space sounded gentle. Thought hotel reservations under her maiden name would go unnoticed. Thought deleting texts was the same as erasing history. But she forgot one thing. I was the man who knew how she filed her receipts and alphabetized the spice rack. If anyone was going to notice her unraveling, it was me. She took 3 days to respond after her last text. Not out of respect, Claire doesn't do patience. No, she was calculating. Figuring out what version of herself would win me back. On Thursday morning, I got an email. Not from her, from HR. Apparently, she'd told her boss I was going through some things and might be taking time off. That's how she softened the narrative. Not, he left after I lied to his face and shared a hotel bed with a man who owns 3 scarves, but he's overwhelmed. She played the concerned spouse in public. Meanwhile, I was halfway through a burner phone, a rented P.O. box, and a Dropbox folder labeled in case of denial. See, I wasn't just leaving Claire. I was documenting her. The photos I took outside that hotel? Timestamped. The text she deleted? Recovered through cloud backups she never knew I had access to. That little detail about her booking the hotel under her old last name? Thank the loyalty card I set up for her last Christmas. She never turned off the email receipts. By the end of the week, I had enough for a scrapbook no husband should ever own. And yet, I hadn't said a word. Because silence is strategic. It gives people just enough rope. On Saturday morning, I came back. Not to make peace. To make impact. I waited until she was gone. Yoga class, 9:30 sharp, like betrayal needed to stretch too. I entered with my old key, walked past the rosemary plant she hadn't watered in a week, and sat at the dining table like I owned it. Because I did. I laid out everything. A copy of the hotel receipt. Screenshots of her text with Ben, printed in color. A still frame from the Ring cam footage showing her standing in the doorway, looking at the coat rack like it might explain my absence. On top of the pile, I placed my wedding ring. And beside it, a letter. Not angry. Not cruel. Just final. It read, Claire, I hope the art fair was worth it. I would say I didn't see this coming, but you were never that good at hiding. This isn't about Ben. It's about how you treated me once you found Ben. It's about how your jokes got sharper when he texted you, how your patience wore thinner when I talked about my day. It's about how I folded the laundry and you folded the truth. I'm not here for a confrontation. I'm here to return the silence. Everything you need to know is in this pile. No explanation needed. Just remember, I left because you already had. That was it. I walked out with my name, my dignity, and my dog. Yeah, I came back for Duke. She didn't even notice I took his leash. By Sunday, I was staying in a small rental on the edge of town. Just me, Duke, and a mattress on the floor. And you know what? It was peace. Real peace. Not the type you fake through forced smiles at dinner tables while someone stares at their phone pretending not to see your heart cracking like glass. Claire didn't contact me for a week. Not until she realized I'd taken the paperwork with me, bank statements, tax files, the joint lease. Then she sent a message. Can we talk? I think we both made mistakes. Both? Oh, we were splitting the bill on this disaster now? I didn't reply. Instead, I scheduled a consultation with a divorce attorney and dropped a secure envelope at her office. Inside? Everything she'd left on the table, figuratively and literally. When she opened it, I hope she felt it. That dull ache of realization when you understand someone didn't just leave, they prepared their exit like a blueprint. Carefully, patiently, quietly. And here's the part she'll never understand. I didn't need revenge. I didn't need to embarrass her or ruin her life. All I needed was to remind her that not every man stays once he's been erased. Some of us redraw the lines and walk out of the frame completely. Claire always had a talent for storytelling. It's what made her so good at gallery openings, charming a room with tales about her quiet, quirky husband, who alphabetized the spices and talked to the dog like he was a roommate. Back then, I thought she was just being funny. Now, I realized she was laying the foundation, making me the punchline in a narrative she could control. After the envelope landed on her desk, she waited 2 days. Then came the call. Blocked number. Straight to voicemail. I don't know what you're trying to prove, but this is getting out of hand. That was the message. No apology. No, I didn't mean to hurt you. Just frustration that I wasn't following the script. See, Claire expected one of two things: a dramatic confrontation that she could twist into a he lost it story, or a quiet fade that left her free to spin the ending. What she didn't expect was documentation. Precision. A chess move instead of a tantrum. That's when the real performance began. She started with my family. I got a call from my sister. Claire reached out. Said she's worried about you. Then a text from my aunt. She told us you're having some kind of breakdown. Even my old boss, who Claire hadn't spoken to in years, suddenly emailed me saying, let us know if we can support you through this transition. The word support has never felt so sharp. Claire had built her story brick by brick: concerned wife, emotionally distant husband, slow unraveling. She was already rewriting history before the ink on our marriage certificate had time to fade. So I did what any reasonable man would do when his ex tries to preemptively steal the narrative. I told the truth. Not to the world. Just to the people who mattered. One message. One group thread. Since there's been some confusion, here's the truth. Claire lied. Claire cheated. Claire left emotionally long before I packed my things. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't retaliate. I just left. And she's angry that I didn't let her play the victim. I attached 2 screenshots. One of her and Ben at the hotel bar, timestamped. One of her concerned message to my sister, sent the day after she received the evidence. Then I muted the thread and went on with my day. The silence that followed was the kind you savor. The kind that lets you know the truth did its job without needing a headline. Claire, meanwhile, did what people like Claire do when cornered by their own reflection. She got creative. I started noticing changes to her social media. A throwback photo of us with the caption, "Not all endings make sense." A boomerang of a wine glass clinking with someone off camera, tagged #healing. A filtered photo of Duke, our dog, with a tearful "miss this face so much." She forgot I had Duke. Forgot I could just post a photo of him snoring on my couch with a caption that read, "He's fine." That one got more likes than anything she'd posted in weeks. A week later, I ran into Ben. Grocery store. Frozen foods aisle. He looked like a man who'd just been asked to explain a modern art installation he didn't understand, confused, cornered, and increasingly aware he was the object of ridicule. He recognized me. Tried to play it cool. "Hey, man. I didn't expect to see you here." I didn't say a word. Just nodded and reached for a bag of frozen peas. He shuffled in place. "I didn't mean for things to happen this way. Claire said you two were already having problems." There it was. The party line. I gave him the kind of smile you reserve for children who try to lie with chocolate on their face. "Just remember," I said, "the way you get her is the way you'll lose her." He blinked. I walked away, peas in hand. The thing about men like Ben is, they think they've won a prize. They don't realize they're signing a lease on someone else's problem with a fresh coat of lipstick. Back at home, I poured myself a glass of something aged and opened the folder I'd labeled closure. It wasn't for court. I wasn't going after alimony or splitting hairs over who got the dining table. No, this was something else. This was for the moment she realized I wasn't coming back. Inside was the final item, a short and signed note I planned to send when the dust settled. It read, "I forgive you. Not because you earned it. Because I refuse to carry this weight while you wade through someone else's attention span. You were a chapter. I'm writing a better book." I wasn't going to mail it. Not yet. But I liked knowing it existed. Because healing isn't about pretending you weren't broken. It's about remembering where the cracks are and walking around them with your head high. And Claire? She'd spend her next few months doing what she always did, pretending the mess was artistic. But I knew better. I was the frame. She just never noticed when the painting fell out. It's funny how people think the worst part of betrayal is the moment you discover it. It's not. The worst part is what comes after, when the betrayal stops being a moment and starts being a rhythm. A constant drumbeat you hear in every silence. Every coffee mug left on the wrong shelf. Every voicemail you don't listen to. Claire wasn't done trying. She just changed tactics. First came the apology tour. Not to me, of course. Claire never really knew how to say sorry unless there was an audience involved. But she made sure mutual friends got the memo. I was going through a hard time. It wasn't supposed to happen. He just shut down. That one was my personal favorite. Like I'd been some human router that blinked red and stopped working. I got a call from her cousin Emily, who was always a little too invested in our marriage. She said you never really opened up. I almost laughed. Tell her I opened the door. She just kept looking for the exit. But Claire's greatest lie didn't come in words. It came in the form of a housewarming party invitation. Hand-delivered. Glossy envelope. No return address, but I recognized the handwriting. Still looped her Y's like a teenager passing notes. It was for her and Ben. No names on the invite, just join us as we begin our next chapter. The RSVP link was active. I clicked it. Not to attend, just to see if she really had the nerve. She did. Same address as our old realtor's listing. I knew it well. I'd stood in that same living room 2 years ago with Claire, debating between sage and seafoam paint samples. Now it was Ben's living room. I stared at the screen for a long time. Not angry. Not hurt. Just aware of how fast some people can replace you with the illusion of progress. But Claire didn't understand something. A chapter isn't a new story, it's a continuation. And if you don't fix the plot holes, they just follow you. So I RSVP'd. No. One word. That's all. An hour later, she texted. Wasn't sure if you'd get that. Just wanted you to know there's no bad blood. Bad blood? No, Claire. There was no blood left. You drained it when you used our life as a stepping stone to your next performance. That night, I did something petty. Not proud of it. But I think you'll understand. I printed the hotel photo, the one of her and Ben from the rooftop bar, and mailed it to the new address. No note. No return address. Just the photo. Printed on matte cardstock. High resolution. The kind of thing you'd frame if it didn't make your stomach turn. 3 days later, she blocked my number. That's when I knew it landed. And you'd think that would be the end, right? Guy gets cheated on, finds his footing, walks away. Credits roll. But no. The truth has a long shelf life. And regret? Regret ages like wine, sour for the ones who didn't read the label. Because about a month later, I got another message. Not from her. From her coworker, Natalie. The one who always seemed too polite around me. Subject line. Just so you know. Inside, just one sentence. You were right. Attached was a screenshot. Claire. Drunk texts. To Ben. 2:13 a.m. You don't understand me like he did. He never made me feel small. You only love the idea of me. I stared at those words for a long time. Not because they hurt. Because they didn't. I didn't feel vindicated. I didn't feel triumphant. I just felt done. She'd told one last lie, that she had moved on. But Claire didn't move on. She repackaged herself and hoped the lighting was better this time. And when the cracks showed, she blamed the audience. Me? I wasn't the hero in this story. I wasn't even the villain. I was the guy who stopped waiting for her to remember who I was. The guy who left when the echo of her smile sounded too much like someone else's laugh. And now? Now I sleep like a man who doesn't check his partner's location. I drink coffee in silence without waiting for a sarcastic comment. I take Duke for walks without wondering if the leash is the only thing holding something together. Because peace, once you taste it, makes noise feel like poison. Claire's still out there, I'm sure, telling her version, repainting history with softer edges. But I'm not in that painting anymore. I walked out of the frame, and I'm not looking back. You'd think that's where the story ends, screenshots, silence, self-respect neatly folded like laundry. But let me tell you, there's a difference between leaving and being gone. Leaving is logistics. Movers, boxes, new keys. Changing your Netflix password. Being gone? That's emotional exodus. It's when you forget her birthday and don't feel guilty. When her perfume smells like air freshener instead of memory. When someone says her name in passing and you don't even blink. I wasn't gone yet. Until the day I saw her. Not planned. Not some showdown in a grocery store. Just one of those tragic little accidents life likes to script when it wants to check your progress. I was grabbing lunch at a small bistro downtown. Sat outside with Duke at my feet, sandwich in hand, enjoying the novelty of peace. That's when I heard the laugh. Sharp. Familiar. Artificially bright. She was across the street. Hair shorter. Smile wider. Holding Ben's hand like he was the last parachute on a crashing plane. She didn't see me. But I watched her pretend to be someone she wasn't for a man who still didn't realize he was in the second act of a tragic comedy. And that's when it hit me. I didn't feel anything. No jealousy. No pain. Not even the petty joy of seeing her put on a show for someone else. I just felt free. The leash between us had finally snapped. And I walked away from that cafe like a man who was finally gone. You want to know the cruelest twist in stories like this? The apology always shows up late. Not when it matters. Not when it could change the outcome. But after. After the dust settles and the silence becomes more deafening than 1,000 arguments. It came on a Tuesday. I was sorting the mail. Bills. Coupons. Postcard from my cousin in Idaho. Then a letter. No return address. Familiar handwriting. I opened it. Claire's words were neat. Centered. Probably rewritten 3 times. I'm not writing to win you back. I'm writing because I don't know how to live with what I did. She went on. About the lies. About how Ben was different in all the ways she thought she needed, until he wasn't. About how she'd never been alone in her life, and how terrifying it was to find out that I had been right there, and she never really saw me. You didn't leave me. I made it impossible for you to stay. I folded the letter. Didn't cry. Didn't save it. Just read it once. Let the weight of it sit there for a minute, then dropped it in the shredder. Some things aren't meant to be kept, especially apologies that come with a stamp instead of a soul. She asked to meet. I said yes, not because I wanted closure, but because I wanted to see, one last time, the face of someone who used to say, I love you, while planning her escape. We met at a quiet bar. No crowd, no music, just the awkward stillness of people who used to know each other too well. She looked older, or maybe just tired. Thank you for coming, she said. I nodded. I know I don't deserve forgiveness, she added. You're right, I replied. She blinked. But I'm going to give it to you anyway. Her lip trembled, just slightly. But I could tell. It wasn't for me. It was for herself. You're not angry? No, I said. Anger is just love without direction. And I've got directions now. She tried to say more, but I stood up, tossed a 20 on the table. Take care of yourself, Claire. And I meant it. I left that bar lighter than I walked in. Because the final word doesn't belong to the person who ended the relationship. It belongs to the one who ended the damage. There's no violent revenge here. Not the kind you read in pulp novels or Hollywood flicks. My revenge was subtler. It was moving on. She burned down a marriage to chase a fantasy. I rebuilt my peace from the ashes and never once invited her into the new structure. I bought a new place. Smaller. Warmer. Mine. I started seeing someone, not a rebound. A real person, with quiet eyes and loud honesty. She knows the story. All of it. And she never once flinched. Duke sleeps by my feet while I write this, snoring like he's forgotten what heartbreak smells like. And me? I don't look for closure anymore. I don't replay the old scenes in my head, wondering what I could have said differently. Because the truth is, when someone chooses chaos, your silence is the most powerful response. I didn't yell. I didn't break anything. I didn't get revenge. I just healed louder than the betrayal. And in the end, that's the cleanest goodbye you can give.